Um, Amar, you are able to see the screen? Okay, good. Thank you very much for opportunity to speak to all of you in this difficult time. I think life has to go on. That is the only way we can survive, looks like. Um, so everybody is trying their best, doctors and all. Yes, I was explaining to Amar, I am also struggling since last 2 weeks. A lot of my teammates are getting infected, and even one of my colleague last chosen to give some insight from my book read. Uh, what that does mean, why I've selected this, because in my previous job as a head of global production, my team, my colleagues, peer members were thinking to do something to bring some change in the managers. Then we end up with this guy, Andre de Waal. He's renowned in the Dutch environment as a consultant, and he is working with several organizations internationally. Then he has experimented this high performance organization. Then he wrote a book based on his experience. Then I happens to read this book. Then I found interesting. Why it is interesting for me? There's nothing new coming from this book. They are all simple, but sometimes we don't consciously practice it. I think we need to give attention towards that. I think I also felt some of these group members are owning startups, are having a plan to own a startup. They are managers. They are going to be managers. Maybe good to know these things. The danger of that, maybe I am going to be more preachy, so that I'm more bringing abstract of what I read. Feel free if you feel bored to interact, and maybe we can make it also interaction. It's not only from the book is right everything. You can also bring your experience and your opinion to make it more interactive. So it's a simple presentation. I don't think it will take a lot of time. That's the background for selecting this topic. What I will do, I will give an introduction of what the high performance organization means, and what is the credibility of this book and the study and the exercise. If any organization wanted to do, what is the definition of high performance organization? Then there are 5 factors have been identified from the research of the author um, to contribute to the high performance of any organization and the manager. Then how, if anybody, a small team or organization can get start with the HPO efforts, I will touch upon those things. So this book is more of evidence-based one. Uh, they done a 5 years of research of the real life examples, case studies. They studied around uh, 290 research publications, and out of that they listed out a different characteristic of high performance. In the first phase they did a research study. Then the 290 studies indicated independently around 189 potential characteristic of any organization claimed to be a high performance organization. Then they narrowed down it to 89 by statistical analysis, and which is correlating, matching. Then they narrowed down to 53. Then the phase two, what they do, they prepared a questionnaires, and they done a case studies. They also are clients to the different organization. They used that to make the organization roll out the performance organization culture. So through that, they prepared the questionnaire. They across the 50 countries, they captured yeah 2,500 responses. I see Prashant hand raised. You have any
Yeah, good
question?
morning, Chaluvaraju. Just one question out here. Sorry, can I ask question now or
Yeah,
later?
yeah, yeah,
How is it?
please. Well, let us make it interactive. Yeah.
Yeah, because this is the slide. So it's regarding the HPO questionnaire one. What is this tryout? 53?
No, they got out of 290 studies, the research studies, they found out 189 potential high performance characteristic, the leadership or the performance characteristic contributing to the high performance. Then they made a 89, the most important one. Then they
That's
narrowed
89
down to 53
characteristics you meant to say. 89 characteristics.
characteristic. Then out of 89, the 53 they narrowed down to try out through the this 53 they used to do prepare a questionnaire to ask the response from the people. They narrowed down
Got
to
it.
53.
Okay.
That
So the
once they,
questionnaire is
yeah,
dependent on the 53 characteristics.
yes, 53 characters which contribute to the high performance organization. Then out
Okay.
of that, they interviewed the 2,500 people across the
Got it.
50 countries. They then a statistic correlation. Then they narrowed down based on the interview. There are very significant only 35. Others are significant, but they are linked to each other. But the 35 are the most important characteristic they finalized, then categorize those 35 characters under the 5 high performance organization factors. So
Okay.
that's how they come up with this book. They written this book based on this experience.
So based on the 35 HPO characteristics.
Yeah, they're based on
Not five,
35.
not five.
Yeah,
Is it 5 or is it 35? Because you mentioned 5
35
is 50
characters.
factors. Acha,
35 characters,
characteristics is
but they
35.
factored under 5 headings. The five
Ah,
headings. Yeah.
got it. Got it. Got it. Got it.
I will deal with this 35, maybe just a listing, but the 5 factors I listed there. But there's more abstract because I cannot bring the whole book, but I can only share my experience also with them. Then maybe we can have an interaction, how you see those characters of the HPO and the factors.
Got it, Chalvaraju. Nice. Thank you. Carry
Okay,
on.
thank you. So, what is the value of this? Generally, we as a managers struggle sometime where to focus. We also read books. We try to manage our team. Maybe small companies manage everything, but sometimes one size don't fit. So there are several things to be done. I think this HPO framework will help them to pick up the right model for them. How what that matters for their organization, they can concentrate to become more outstanding in achieving their goal. How they can consistently achieve their goals, and that the managers will get a if they're not the great things written. They're all simple things known to all of us, but sometimes it's good to put them in the perspective and to sometimes put them into a diagnostic manner where we are, uh, which we are good at, which we are not good at. I think that helps. Also, this helps how we can reshape our team and organization. These 5 factors are categorized under quality of the management, that basically the quality of the managers of any organization, the quality of the employees, and other things, how openness and action orientation should be in the organization to be a high performance organization. And as a strategy, a continuous improvement is a nerve. You cannot be a performance organization if you don't look back what you're doing, where you're improve. And also sometimes you have to tie your all activities to the long term, the whole purpose of existence of the organization. Otherwise you don't be a performance organization if you are very short sighted. So these are the 5 factors they come up in that. So I deal management quality more detail, maybe that's more useful. We can also make it more interactive if you think differently, or if you want to deep dive into that or to share your experience. What is actually the definition of the high performance organization? Is any organization that achieve financial and non-financial goals that are significantly better than their peer groups. I think we cannot compare to the being agriculture company, you cannot compare to the IT company or consultant or service company. Service company cannot. So you have to really compare to your comparable organization. And also there are exceptional organization in the world. They are outstanding, they are high performing for years together. I think those are exception. On an average, I think all companies don't perform forever. I think there is always ups and downs. But if you define the organization is high performing, at least consistently organization to deliver and have a financial and non-financial accomplishment consistently for a period of 5 years. Maybe 1 or 2 years there may be a dip because of certain things in the market environment, or there may be a fantastic result in 1 or 2 years because of some luck or the good market environment. That's not the high performance. High performance is consistently over a period of 5 years on an average, out of the studies they done with those questionnaires. So the 5 years they consistently performed. So those are called the high performance. How they achieved that is by focusing in a disciplined way what that really matters to this organization, not implementing all the 5 factors and 35 characters. So it's to focus where to improve, what are the pitfalls. That's the way you can be a performance organization. So what is the non-financial is, if you focus on those things, the company can be more innovative, they have a greater ability to improve themselves, and there is a positive mindset, openness, then more focus and discipline in the organization. There more trust between the partners, and the more cooperation. There will be a strategy is not the differentiating factor, but how you execute it in different way is a more unique way. That's the differentiating factor, and you will get a more reputation if you have a if you are really a performance organization, and you easily get the clients and employees, and there will be a renewed spirit. Financially, your turnover, they have experimented, they see the consistent turnover. They also listed in the books the percentages of different companies, how their market share has increased, how the productivity, profitability, and also how you do efficiently with a small budget and all to do the high things. So that's the positive effects. So coming back on to the the management quality, there are 12 characters that they come up. So one of that is the manager has to be trusted in the organization. If the manager is not trusted, then you cannot build the high performance team. I think trust is not, you cannot earn by demanding it. I think it has to be earned by way of your working, by behavior. I think they put here also, maybe I have, where yeah, they took a also example, the catering company, the catering manager. I just captured that uh, uh, snapshot here. I think the more important, how the manager be honest, the behavior. He has to show the respect towards the people. He has to speak to the person, not speaking about the person in the background. You have to listen to the people, and you have to show the vulnerability that you don't know everything. You have always opportunity to learn from your own colleagues, and you have to ask people, and you have to engage in dialogue as a manager. You have to stay in touch with the people, and also if you want to criticize people for some reason, you have to do it in a more respectful manner, in bilateral. And also sometimes we need to give a credit. The snapshot I captured here, the catering manager is all, yeah, trust also come from your capability and vision. He's working from long time, and he knows, he understand the works of the different people. He gives a freedom to operate. He will give responsibility and freedom to achieve their results. Trust them, and you will always listen to their ideas. And he is trustworthy because he has a vision about that restaurant he runs, and he's very consistent in his approach. And he 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 also available to the people. He himself get into the task sometime, and that's how he become a role model. That's how he got a trust. I think sometimes trust, people speaks a lot. You have to have a trust, but that's not tangible way. Sometimes we struggle. What is the way we can help people to gain the trust? I think it's all behavior. We have to, that's what being trusted. So that's the one of the thing as a quality of the management. These are how you gain the trust. Any question before I move on this? A reflection.
Doctor, just a observation and probably one thing which just flashed by. They say that if you want to trust a person, there is no other way to trust. Just trust that person. That's it. There is no other better mechanism of, or there is no better rule, or there is no better way to do that. If you want to trust a person, then you have to trust that person. That's it. There is no other attribute that you have to see that, okay, I have to find out this signal or that culture or that to trust that person. That starts with that particular aspect that I trust you.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You are right, but sometimes people trust differently. The people differently in the sense some manager never get a trust because of their own behavior.
I
Sometimes you start trusting people, but the trust is broken because they don't walk the talk. They speak about you with others,
Yeah,
and then you trust unconditionally, but you lose that because of the behavior of the colleague or a manager. That's the more important, how you have to continue to gain the trust. Yeah.
correct, correct.
Yes. So then the other thing is integrity. The integrity is something how you behave as an organization when nobody watches you. So that's the integrity. I think the snapshot here I mentioned there, it is indicating this catering manager, he's making a rules for everyone. Sometimes the employees have to do a less desirable job because everyone has to share. Washing a sink is a less desirable job in the canteen. Then he himself do that. That means the integrity in the any organization in the team is not only for the team, it's also for the manager. I think that's the important thing. So that when manager don't practice it, you cannot expect that integrity in the team. So to how we can foster that integrity, that should be a core value of the organization, and there should be one standard. It's not differentiating by different people. Okay, there are some rules and regulations. There are policy about the vehicles, a policy about the travel. Then manager don't, he has a ability, he has a power, you don't need to follow. Then it's also connected to trust. Then where is the integrity? So there's one standard. And also, if we want to have the integrity important aspect, then we need to speak up in regular meetings these ethical factors and how the integrity matters to them. And many of the organization, the whistleblower will be punished because they are end up with their spoiling the reputation of the organization. So then that organization cannot be a high performance organization. We have to reward the whistleblower. And we have to connect, the book says you have to connect always the goals to the integrity. You can make a sales, but not at the cost of maybe a competition class, not at the cost of something you yourself set the guidelines. So that then there's a goal, but you have a framework to do that. It's not that at hook a cook you have to achieve these figures. So then the integrity, that's the long term. So that's how they say the faster the integrity. Yeah, it appears to be a preaching. The book itself is like that, but it's also very abstract. So that's what they say. You have to foster as a manager of the organization. Every manager has to foster this behavior. So I will move to the next slide. What the role model? So how to become a role model to the people. That's as a manager, as in our team, how we can become a role model. The one again, it is a behavior as a manager. Sometimes we forget we were the employees. We start behaving differently. I think that's something we should never forget. If you don't forget, then you think empathetically in their shoes. They have a different problems. They may be looking at the things in a different perspective. So you have to look at in their perspective. That's connected to the empathetic behavior. If you think that you are the man, you are the employee once, so that's how. So how we can also become role model. So we can, as a managers, we can also find some role models for ourselves as a manager. Maybe in the industry, there's someone who is great. Maybe in our own environment, in our own company, in other departments, maybe someone is a great. So we have to look up them also as a role model. So that's how you avoid the pitfalls of yourself. So that then role model is also walking the talk, also your behavior. It's all connected. These all characters of 12 are connected. So how you are evaluating yourself. Sometimes you have to create your own antenna that you have to be, you know, what is the pulse about you in the organization. We have to create an environment that the people should come to you and be candid about you directly to you. Then that avoids to speak about you in the corridor. So that environment, as a manager, everybody should create, so that people come and speak to you with a good intention. Then whenever we have interactions with the people, ask the feedback. When we ask the feedback, they have to genuinely feel it. You are asking the feedback for improvement. They should feel that, okay, you are asking feedback for something to reflect yourself, not to threaten them. So when you create those things, naturally that gives you a different image about the manager. So that manager will naturally evolve as a role model. So that's what the book says. Yeah. Any points? Okay, then the other two important things they're connected is the high performance organization. As a management, as a manager, they should have a fast decision making ability. Then also to foster the actions faster. So what are the factors? What are the characters, things you have to stimulate to make the faster decision as a manager? And you have to make yourself question that, for which reason we have to do this. That helps. And also you have to make sure your people should ask the question themselves, is there is a value based activity? Is anything this is influencing our organization by taking this decision? That's the first question. Anything we have to decide. So that don't give a lot of confusions. Okay, this is something, this brings this value for this organization. Then what affects you to make a fast decision? Always support function, HR, procurement. If you are in a business function, there is a safety department, there is a procurement department, there's a HR department. They all put holds. They are the brakes. So you have to align with them to really to make your decision faster and work. So you have to align with the all function which they facilitate. As a manager, as a company, we have to create that alignment. If there is a right decision, we have to quickly align with them, and we should avoid over analysis. We have to go for 80-20 rules. And also we have to empower our own team with this framework to make the decision. And that are the stimulating things to make a fast decision. Okay, you will make a fast decision. Sometimes you do a lot of decisions. So then you act upon those decisions. Sometimes we initiate too many projects, too many things to do, but they will never get the light. They will never be completed, because there are people listed a lot of activities, how to act fast on them. You have to really break down into a short, medium, and long term. So then you have to give a prioritize. So unless you prioritize, you cannot achieve everything. Then there are the constraints. to achieve your short, medium, and long term. Address them in a selective way. Don't address everything together. If there is a short goal, what are the constraints to achieve that? Address that. So like that, then we can make the fast actions. That's a more or less. These are not something we don't know, but sometimes we don't do this. So
I had a experience to share here, something which I have been part of an organization which was very fast at decision making. One thing they did in that was empowerment to the last level.
yeah,
I'm talking of Cisco and the account manager of an account. It's a sales organization, so they are in touch with the customers. So what they did is they empowered the account manager to take decisions on discounts, on any spends, everything, which normally would need more approvals. So what they said is, you are responsible, you decide, and up to a level. I mean, it could not be endless. That there was always a decision chain, but they said, you own the account, you decide, and you take care of it. So in that way, the decision was very fast. The turnaround time was very fast in that. The second is, one of the things in decision making I realized, which works far better as well, is communicating the deadlines. What at times is the short term, medium term, long term, I have also observed is it keeps on dragging, is because the people are not aware of the deadlines. It's not pushed down well. People feel it's like telling somebody a deadline is um, putting a pressure on them or anything, but it's not. It's like collective effort. At times I have seen organizations, the single person takes all the deadlines, he doesn't communicate it well, he expects everybody to understand. This is what I have also seen with delays projects as well for a very long time. So yeah, something which I have observed here. So good
yeah,
points made.
yeah, that's true. I think the empowerment at a different level with the framework always helps. Yeah. Any more reflection before I move to the next one? Then the coaching for the better results. I think as a manager, that's one of the trait, the quality. Of course, every manager don't have that trait, but there should be awareness. What they have to do as a manager. That the organization also should help manager to build that ability. I think the coaching is an act of training and supporting employees, being supportive to facilitate and also to protect them from interferences and also be available to them when it is needed. Coaching is not to tell how to do the things. It's giving a feedback and concrete feedback time to time. Sometimes we don't give a feedback and at the right time when employee is going through the difficulties. Maybe he's thinking in his own way. He's going everything fine, but if we get a right feedback at right time, he turn around the things. So as a manager, we should not wait and watch. We should not affect people. We should not take away the empowerment of the people, but we have to coach them. We have to give that feedback to them. So that relationship we need to build. I think the feedback or the coaching is to make the employee to self reflect himself. What is he doing? What is the process he's going through? Not giving him all the answers. So that's how we have to develop the employee, and we should not afraid to give a critical feedback sometime, to be critical about that in a more respectful manner. I think that most of the time it's an open field for the people. They go in all the direction. If really help them to channelize, they do a wonders. But just we will leave it to them. Of course, you have to give them empowerment and freedom, but sometimes they also need, that's why we all there as a managers. Sometimes we need to guide them. So guide in the sense not to take away their power, take away their decision making power, take away their freedom. So guide them with a good feedback to do the things, to make the reflection in them. That's what the coaching is all about. Then each organization should have a result orientation. That is the only thing. Of course, all are linked. So, but you have to really um, have attitude of the whole organization, team, and manage as a manager wanting to achieve the outcome. So sometimes we make it routine things as a targets. We should always set a high standards uh, to make the organization high performing. And we always speak about high performance. It should be a nirvana for the organization. People should feel proud about speaking the performance. There should be a prideness to speak about the achievement. And sometimes successful organization, that itself is a danger for them. They will be a complacent. So there are several organizations, they grown 10-15% every year, couple of years, then they struggle to make a figures. Their figures never go more than 2-3%. They even go to negative because they're getting to ego of their own success. I think that should not happen. I think also they start doing things everything because they were successful. And sometimes because we are successful, we don't look at our own weaknesses. As a manager, that is a very important thing. I personally do that. Like sometimes we don't recognize what is our weakness. We cannot be good in everything. You have to see that weakness in a somebody in the team strength. We have to complement the manager weakness in the strengths of some team members. We have to hire or we need to develop maybe something. We cannot do that by nature. Our DNA never make us to be strong in some stuff. Then you have to have a person to complement that, be vulnerable to tell that I'm not good at that, please help me. So that helps us to be a more performing manager. And also we sometimes wanted to do everything perfect. Perfection don't give a performance. The speed gives the performance. Of course we need to be balanced with the speed and quality. So that's what about the achieving the results. Then what is the effectiveness? The effectiveness of the organization is um, ability to achieve a desired result. That's the effectiveness. So how to bring effectiveness in the team? The tips, at least in this book, I felt it is quite interesting. There are conflicts always in the organization. Conflicts not necessarily to a personal conflict, conflict of priorities, conflict of way of approaching the things. Let managers use that conflict to spark the creativity, to make the better decisions, to foster the collaboration. That gives the effectiveness to do the desired thing. When there are conflicts, then you get opportunity to coach people and how to do that. There is a conflict, you have to have a method to resolve the conflict. What can be a method? You fix some criteria to trade off. Maybe the common goal, maybe the some principles to come to a decision. Then you can also escalate that to the next level, resolve that conflict in a more structured manner, bring back that experience to the team so that people learn how these things can be accomplished. So you will build the effectiveness using the conflict of the organization. Conflict always can be helpful. Conflict cannot be um, harmful. So, but it's the management quality. How use that conflict to be effective. Then we all speak about strong leadership. Strong, you have to be a strong leader. Yeah, people say to me, my manager says a couple of times, but what is that? Strong leadership in the organization. Strong leadership is ability of leading a group of people or organization which is not easily damaged and overcome. And also the team we lead should withstand all opposition and as a determination. So to create a perception is important as a strong leader. Sometimes perception helps. Employees should perceive you, your managers perceive you as a strong manager, a strong leader. How they will perceive you, as long as you have a cooperation of your own employees. If your own team members don't cooperate to you and your own colleagues don't cooperate to you, then they don't perceive you as a strong leader. Of course, that is a lot to do to create that perception. And also, as a manager, someone has to build a connection to the upper layer and lower layer in the organization. You should know what is coming up in the future, what the issues comes up, what the new things to be done. You have to have an early warning system so that you act swiftly. You can already start thinking about what is coming. You take a timely action so that the people say he is a strong man, he can make the things happen. And always you have to be predictable. Okay, you are able to do this, then people will give that responsibility. Dependence, you have to create that dependence. And also strong manager is not necessarily that he has to do everything. Strong manager is that how you are vulnerable, how you are feel comfortable to give a credit to others, and how confidently you are humble towards the others, just giving away your ego. That's how that's how the strong leadership qualities. That's how you have to build a strong leadership behavior.
Raju, can you go back to point number 7? Focus on achieving results.
Yeah.
Yeah, the last point, value speed over perfection. So, is there any linkage between fast decision making and value speed over perfection? Is
Yes,
it?
yes. I think the decision making is definitely as a link. Sometimes people paralyzed by analyzing a lot because they want to make a perfect decision. You will never make a perfect decision. There always the things go wrong, possibly. But you worry a lot to make the decision because you want every data and the holy cow come to your uh, yard. You will wait till that time, then you will miss the opportunity, then people are frustrated. So that's about making a decision. I think
But
you have to make a fast decision. Yeah.
yeah, but is there any cost impact on that? Because many a time in big cost impacted projects require thorough understanding, review, and that procedure. So just I am throwing that point.
Yes, I think that's a risk taking ability. Yeah. So you have to be careful. You cannot decision quickly without the right facts on your table. That's all understandable. But sometimes all facts are available and all the details are available. You hardly make any differences with the additional data available. Then you have to make a decision. Of course, if it is a decision, and also how you build that ability. Sometimes you are right. Maybe there are some project we may lose the call. How the innovation. I think some of the companies will keep the budget for that to make a mistakes. Sometimes, yeah, losing money is fine. Of course, you have to balance there. What is the threshold? But losing money is also bringing you a lot of experience you can apply, but it's all balancing. But in general, you don't need to do a lot of analysis when you already know 80% of the facts. So you don't need to wait for 20 remaining 20%. Of course, I'm all coming from the book. I'm not the perfect manager. Don't see that I'm preaching. I think you're muted, Rishikesh.
Yeah, I was thinking, is there any point discussed in the book or not? That's what I was just trying to.
This is the insight from the book. Yeah.
Cost, decision, and relation with between value speed.
Yes, there are certain
So,
examples. There are yeah, maybe it's a very voluminous book. There's several companies examples are there, there are specific examples also to how they come to the decision when there are stake. Yeah, they are there. Yeah.
Can I just give my one piece of thing? Most of the times when you say decision, it always has multiple things in it. And probably majority of the things can be, taken in quickly. A lot of times what happens with the speed is people want everything on table. I mean, all the pieces of the puzzle. But without
Yeah.
having all the pieces of the puzzle also, you can progress with whatever you have. So the decision should be made into smaller decisions. Take whatever is possible in that bit. Maybe you are not going to go with that thing 100%. Still, you can achieve something. And as you start doing it, the pieces will fall in place. That is what usually happens. So I think if you are looking for the whole solution on one day, it will never come. Make it into smaller bits, start doing it, and then probably one or two pieces will be missing. That may not really end up with a bad result after all. That if at all it results in a bad outcome, that's a risk taking. I mean, that's something what Chaluvaraju was saying. You need to have some risk taking ability. But if you want everything to be on table, it's almost impossible. It never happens.
Yeah, I think that's rightly put into perspective, Doctor. That's the value of this type of discussion. This is all learning for all of us. I fully agree. Sometimes we have to break into a pieces the puzzle. Then the confidence. Building confidence is something also as a manager is very important. How you build a confidence in your team, in an organization. That's always a question. I think the most important the thing is you have to let the team to create a best example, winning examples. I will come to that. I think the creating confidence is to give a feeling and showing reliance and certainty and self assurance about yourself, that knowing your own strength and also no weaknesses. The confidence is something not always be strong. Confidence is also how courageous you are to speak up about your own weakness and recognize your own limitations. Then you are more authentic. When you are more authentic in front of people, you are more self-conscious, you will be more self-disciplined, and you are also modest. So you will be emotionally robust. You will not be arrogant in front of the people. That's how the confidence. People sometimes confuse. You have to be very strong. You have to you speak everything is great, not necessarily. So we have to be careful not to be arrogant about ourselves. Majority of the organization, that's also related to the complacence. People become arrogant of their own success. I think that's not the confidence. So sometimes you can build the confidence in the people of your team to invest your time and energy what matters to them. Maybe for some individuals nothing matters, they need some appreciation. For some, maybe they need a confirmation they are doing a right job. Maybe someone need a resources, someone need a budget. So you have to understand what really matter to your people. That brings the confidence to them. Then you have to always focus on the big picture, and with that big picture you have to give a chance to do small things, all our employees to contribute for that. Then while doing that, you will set an example. You will have a visible examples that someone ideas translated into some project, translated into an action. Then they are creating winning examples. Then you are rewarding the people. Then they start testing the success. Then you look at that, you watch around in the background, I think if you create these type of winning streaks, that four things happens that bring a confidence in the people, self confidence. Yeah, they learn this, they have to do this always, they have to understand better, they get a confidence to take a risk, they get a confidence to do things differently in the next time. And also confidence as a team, they start sharing how they did it, how were able to succeed, to overcome that challenge. Then they will share each other, that bring the confidence in the whole group. Then they started improving their process because of that winning example. Okay, that was the thing, we had a challenge, now we need to change that process, we need to improve that process. Your system get more confidence while doing that. So you have to, then because of that, your external stakeholders and your customers start seeing it. That's how the confidence will build in them. This is all interrelated. So how you build that confidence? Of course, confidence is not only in the winning. Maybe it's also how you have to handle your failures. But most of the time, we don't learn from also from our the successes. So we do success, but we don't apply that, strengthening the strength. People sometimes more focus on the weaknesses. As a manager, we ignore to focus on strengths. Strengthening the strength is much more important and critical than focusing on the weaknesses. So that's how you can build the confidence. Then world accountable for the result. The world accountable is taking responsibility for our own actions and result as a manager. Also that, and that culture has to be in our own team. How you foster that in our team. Sometimes you have to identify people in every team that's possible. People avoids the risk, avoids to take a step. They will, you are to identifying the team who is avoiding to take that risk, who is avoiding to take up the task. So you have to deal with them strongly as a manager. And also majority of the time people go to the new job, they say, a lot of things to be messed up, I have to clean up. That's majority of the time, 90%. That's not true. That, as per the book, they are the bad managers who says that there's a mess. There's no mess. I think the people, yeah, maybe true, very less percentage, but majority of the time that's not true. We have to be careful in our own teams when people say, yeah, a lot of things has to be cleaned up first. So that's the defense people takes for their underperformance. And majority of the time people wanted to be busy, they say, I'm busy, I don't have time. And yeah, they try to participate in every activity, but they do nothing significant. So but they wanted to participate, but they don't involve fully. They wanted to manage from the distance, they want to watch out, then they want to take a credit. This type of individuals in every organization are there. I think we as a manager, we need to be careful, and we need to be critical on them. And also how to do that, sometimes you have to expect the very specific explanation, specific remarks, specific dialogue than the vague answers from the individuals. That if you start doing it, people think about the avoiding, think about acting like they wanted to do a lot of things. So when you start asking specific things, people will learn that from your own way of working. That's how you can make accountable up in the team. Then how you can also decisive with the non-performance. I think majority of the manager is not that they don't want to be decisive on non-performance. Sometimes they have a less courage. They are not knowing how to handle it. So that's what, as a manager, you have to help to handle those things. I think if you don't act quickly on the non-performance, they are the bad apples in the team. So yeah, many managers have a problem to confront with the non-performers. They have a fear. So we in organization, a small or big organization, performance management system should, to the extent we have to train our managers, employee to handle those bad apples. So there should be adequate time and process in place. You have to gather the facts, you have to put the facts more visible, and you have to empower, give authority to people to act upon those bad apples, and the management has to back on those decisions. Then those non-performance will fade away in the organization. Yeah. This is all about under the factor the management quality. Before we go to the next factor, hope I am not boring you guys. Any reflection?
So a quick question here, was the book talking about any examples and steps as well?
Yes,
The
yes.
the reason I'm asking is because most of these are at a certain point after working for a couple of years, you would get to a common knowledge status where you'd say, okay, these are the things to be there. The challenge is implementing them. The challenge is articulating them rather. So I was
Yeah.
trying to understand from the book point of view.
Yeah, I think you are right, Amar. What the book says, that's what comes in my last slide. They what they did in the several examples they given, they do a diagnosis of organization. When they get into a project, you don't need to do the project with them. Maybe once you read the book, you can also do that. You have to do a diagnosis for organization first. The diagnosis is come from the organization itself. So to understand what is the starting point, so that starting point is the diagnosis where we are. The diagnosis is the mirror. That mirror of your own organization will help you where we are. I think there you have to start. This gives a framework, but not necessary all these things to be done in a certain organization. There's something is already a great in the organization, there's something not, but they are interlinked. They are more complementary effect of each factors. So that diagnosis helps. The book explains the several examples of those diagnoses, how they diagnosed their company, where were there in their turnovers, how they approached it, and how they ended up. Okay, so moving forward, it is it too much? Yes, it looks like too much. It's also related to your question. I mean, it's more abstract, looks like abstract, and it's not that we don't know these, and we all know that. It's too much to tell in a presentation. It's not really for presentation. It's really to experiment as an organization. Then it has a value. But it's too much appears to be, but some are already existed in the organization. I think that's important. So yeah, some needs to be improved, but some are all already there. But how you articulate it, that's also important. So how you articulate where you are in these things, that articulation should come from also from the people. That's the diagnosis part. You can diagnose a particular a team of organization. That's what we wanted to do at one point of time in my previous job. We wanted to speak to all our managers to understand what their frustrations, where they are, what their frustration about the results, about the manager, about decision making, about a culture. Then plot that. When you plot that, it will get to know where you are strong, where you are not strong. Then you need to build that. Then not necessary you have to do everything. You have to do what the situation, that's the star, situation based approach. What situation needs what, the different situation needs different task to be accomplished. The situation, task, and action needed, and that gives the results. Then you have to reflect on that. That yes, it appears to be too much, but not necessarily you need to do a lot, unless you know that you have to understand where what is your team. That's the starting point. Then the second factor is the employee quality. So the employee quality is something is also of course you have a good management, but of course that's linked. The manager and management has to hire and retain and nurture the incurable curiosity. You have to hire an employee who has a curiosity. Employee don't have a curiosity, is a liability to the organization. That's easy way. So, but you have to find out that level. Though the employee should like to be challenged, then they wanted to have a more responsibility. They have to be more. They wanted to be held accountable. They wanted to do better. So how you, okay, you can have a right employee, but you have to give a freedom to act, and that's the context you have to create to the employee to be more creative and more trustful. Then employees also should be more flexible and resilient. What is the resilience here? How easily you recover, how you can quickly come back from the setbacks. And more flexibility is how versatile you are, how adaptable, how you are willing to change. It is something employees should feel that, okay, we'll get to roam one or the other way. I think how the employees we have to help them to learn the new skills, knowledge, but the employee also should have the willingness to have. Sometimes people wanted to have a training to have a title, training to put there in the profile and to tell, but that's not the thing. They have to also willing to learn. I think I feel this group is a high performing group. It's not about we were worried about the certificate. We really have a great team of colleagues now. Even after that, we are learning. I think that's all would be willing to learn new things. That's the performance. When we are hiring the people, you have to look for those examples in their previous job, whether they have performed, they have exhibited with some examples, these things. Then as an employee pool, you have to have a diversity. Sometimes we wanted to have someone who is good at what we are good at. So we wanted the people to say everything yes. I think you have to have people who have different abilities, not only in the skill set and also in the mindset, in the behaviors, also from the different background. Sometimes the book suggests, even if you don't have an opportunity, you have to create an opportunity to create a new positions to bring that diversity in the organization. That helps the organization. Then you have to have a different experience. They should complement each other. Everybody cannot be good in everything. Then how to do that? Recruitment should not have a one approach. Recruitment should have a different approaches in identifying, developing the talent. That should be a part of the strategy of the recruitment strategy of the HR. And also there should be a more job rotation, cross-functional job rotations. And also we have to, and you have to encourage to identify the role model of the different backgrounds. Maybe in some departments have a different skill set, different things. We need to indirectly make that they are role models. So also we have to put a career track in place. This is what the career track looks like. It's a more transparent. The person who has this ability today doing this job, if he acquire the skill set, if he acquire, it's not that naturally you get a promotion, but he get a promotion if he acquires the skill set. So that's the career track plan. Then sometime also in the organization, it happens in the big companies, we easily demotivate the new coming employees because they bring any, they don't fit into our culture. We easily demotivate. I think we hire the people. When we hire the people knowingly that they are coming from a different culture, but we are hiring them to bring a different perspective. When we as a manager don't support that employee, he will not get the motivation. That's very important to build a diverse and complementary workforce. Will also, we have to create a partnership between the departments, between internal and external. We have to create a network. That way employees will develop their own skill set, their own profile will be developed, but they will bring value to the company. So we have to build that partnership with the high performance partners, which is also to learn and grow as an organization. It's all about employee quality. These are the four important characteristics of the employee quality.
Like hiring process, maybe half an hour or 45 minutes time frame. How to identify resilience? Any example is given in the book?
Yeah, there are examples, but there's a book is also not perfect. There are something also very abstract. You are right, it's a pitfall, but it's also, that's why the recruitment should have a lot of robustness in any organization. Sometimes recruitment is not possibly by only the manager to be recruited. You have to involve different people who has a background, who has the ability to understand what the interviewer, what the employee coming for interview is speaking. Yeah, most of the time it's a pitfall, you cannot. Yeah, that's a different maybe a topic which book is not really dealing that in a detail, but it's also possible asking a right question, and you can get that. Of course, some people are good in explaining in the interview, but you cannot bluff. One interview can do that, but there are, yeah, that's what they're saying. You have to have different approaches for recruiting. Depends on the what type of job you are recruiting. You have to have an evaluation system. You have a star based interview. Yeah, like star based interview is what the situation, what was the task. Not only, okay, employee can say that I did that, I did this, but you also ask the employee to reflect on that. Then they fail to reflect if they really done not involved in that process. The reflection of the achievement is much more important than what you achieved. That is the star based interview. Situation, task at that time needed, what actions taken by employee, and what was the result of that, what was the reflection of that employee of that result. That can be a, yeah, my explanation, but yeah, there are diverse things to do. Any question? Then I will move on to openness and action. Openness and action orientation. I think basically that is speaking around 5 characters of that, which is more about how as a manager, how the whole organization is open for the new things. I think this chapter, this is one chapter in the book. They're speaking about not about communication. They're speaking about dialogue. Sometimes we speak, you have to be very communicative to the employee. I think there are several town halls, several email communication happen these days that don't result in high performance. You have to, management has to engage in the dialogue with the employee. That should be a two-way. Then also you have to let employee to participate in the dialogue. They should exchange their learning and knowledge. And also any high performance organization has to involve the people in the important processes. That's also, you have to, how to bring a change, how the openness to the bring change. You have to equip the people to understand, to go through the journey. And also, yeah, how you will show the openness, how you take action. It is going back, taking a risk. I think how you take action. Sometimes you don't take any action because you created a fear as a manager towards your employee. Allow them to do mistakes. So that's how you create the openness culture and action orientation culture. Then the fourth factor the book refers is a continuous improvement and renewal ability of the organization. If you climb to be high performance organization, strategy don't bring the high performance, because strategy is not something you can do a great. Every company, if I am a seed company, I think other seed company also knows what are the strategies, what the things to do. You cannot do a lot of differences in the strategy. Of course, strategy differences in content is very limited in the same area. You can only make a 10% difference, but you can make a execution difference in 90%. How you execute your strategy is much more important than your strategy alone. So that is the differentiation factor between the performing and non-performing organization. Then every organization has to continuously improve their own processes, focusing on that, do with the more speed, agility, and alignment. The continuous improvement is not for a particular department. That should be aligned across the departments. Then You also have to continuously improve your products, and that's all about innovation. That is very much to our product development, that innovation mindset. You have to allow to do the mistakes, you have to bring ideas, you have to have a budget, you have entrepreneurship mindset. Then what is important for continuous improvement and the performance? You have to have a system of analyzing your performance. You have to explicitly report where you are in your performance. You should have a performance management system. You should have a clear KPIs, key performing indicators. What is the indication that I am doing best? That based on that, your budget should be. Your budget should always based on your key performance. Your forecast should be based on your key performance. And there are no relevant KPIs you are incorporated, you should take away. You have to only work with the relevant KPIs for particular business. Then your KPI system, reporting system should be easy to understand. There should be IT system. People can have alarming system to know where they are performing. Then the people should be trying to understand the key performance indicators. Then there should be a system and a platform to reflect how they are performing every month, every quarter. Every employee should be aware of the performance of the organization, performance of their own team, performance of their own individual. That makes your year-end evaluation easier and more candid. That's the performing organization has to do. That's about continuous improvement. Another important thing is a long term. I think long term is not, we are existed as a company, as a team, not for short term. We are existed for long term. The existence is for our own employees, for our own customers, for our own suppliers, for our own stakeholders. I think that's very important. That's makes the organization high performing. Short term organization, short term goals don't work. I think you have to identify why you are existed. What is the purpose of existence as a company? To make a money? No, then you cannot be a high performing organization. You have to always connect your existence to the society. Your business should be connected to the society. Then employees will reflect their job to their personal values. They will also see, I am doing something with a purpose. Then also the long-term orientation is, you have to co-create your product, co-create your strategy together with your customers' feedback, together with your stakeholders. So that's more important. That can come from taking always your customer as, you have to not be always, we say we are should be customer centric. What is that? Sometimes we don't understand our customers. We need to understand our customers. We need to build a long-term relationship, and people should stay long term in the company. Majority of them, of course, you have to have a new talent, but you have to promote. The book says that the internal promotions are much more effective than bringing from outside. And also people should feel safe in the organization. So that's the long term orientation to climb as a high performing organization. This is the 5 factors the book refer. Then what actually don't support for the high performance is, sometimes, okay, organization is not performing, we change the structure. That don't help. Structure changing don't help any organization to perform better. Then we say employees should have autonomy. Yes, that's important. I also said that in the previous slides, but too much autonomy without the boundaries will not make the organization high performing. Strategy don't bring the performance. Strategy, of course, gives a clarity, but the management to drive it, how you execute it is more important. Sometimes we say we have to have a technology. Technology is important to make a progress. Yes, that is true. But if this technology is not connected to these 5 factors, that's not going to be high performance. Sometimes we address in isolation these things. We address to bring technology, we address to bring a new ERP. That if you do in isolation, that will not bring a performance. People spend a lot of money. There are several organizations, they spend a lot of money, but they still don't make a figures. Then we generally do benchmarking with the competition. Then benchmarking with the competition is, yeah, you can only benchmark the best practices, what other organization is doing. But what is that meaning? You have to take action on that. That's more important. Then communication. Then be highly communicative, not bring a performance culture. The dialogue will bring more a performance culture. This is just a disclaimer from the book. Yeah, yes, I said books have a lot of example. I think you have a title in the presentation. You can look at that if you want to read. I don't know if that's online available if you want to read. But as a manager, as a reference, maybe you don't need to read a book, full book, but as a reference, it always helps. It's not the Bible, but it helps always to refer some examples. Some questions been asked also can get answer from that book. As a manager, that book for me at least it is acting as a reference. It is not that I don't know those things, but sometimes how to apply those things helps. That's this is the last slide. That's the question how you said, Amar, how you start with the HPO diagnosis. This is a mirroring. I think you have to look honestly at the organization and yourself, and what are the nuts you have to crack. Really identify the attention points which need to be addressed to transform into high performance. These are the 5 factors are important. The 35 characters are important. But what are the attention points for your organization? What is the starting point? Determine the current status, and then you measure that. Then you work for the transformation, and you have to strengthen the togetherness. I think then you have to pick up something as management and employee together. That's what I said. We were doing kind of a interview and discussion with our team to understand together, to find a plan to execute. Maybe based on that, we will prepare what we prepared. Then we started to give it awareness to the managers. We plotted each managers. We rated 1 to 9. This manager where he stands from 1 to 10. This employee where he stands from 1 to 10 on these characteristics. Then we pulled them. Then based on that, we started addressing those issues. Of course, there's several ways to address that. You have to rate them, and the rating system has been explained in the book. So I'm not good in figures and analysis, so I did not bring that into a today presentation. So I always try to be more abstract. So that's about the review. I think that's, yeah. Maybe we can discuss a little bit. We started doing that 1 year back to do that. I think it's in the process yet. So that was my previous department. I was part of supply chain and operations. Now I moved to R&D. In the supply chain operation, they're still working on that. But me is one of the responsibility also to implement this in my team. What I did, I used to have a discussion with the people about their performance and all. But I used this book to plot this different characteristic. Then I rated this character. I explained to the people like 5 stars. Then asked them to put a 5 star if they're fully meeting what is explained here. If it is not, then 3 stars. So I did the assessment of each individual employee. Then I gone to the details why it is not 5 star, why it is 2 star. Then these are I do, this I not yet do. Then I translated that into a development of the people. Then I generally my FM we call frequent meaningful conversation. So my conversation of the performance in the annual review meeting and all is just very vague and very quick. Then I changed that into every conversation we were focusing on some of these things to help them to reflect. Then that file and helped me to make a very tangible areas of improvement. Sometimes, yeah, you have to build a trust. Tell me how to do that. You have to be more entrepreneurial. Tell me how to do that. People ask these questions. That helped me. I think I was able to make a very tangible actions for that. And also tell me how to behave. You say my behavior is not right. So like you have to be more trustful. You have to be more accepted. There's one employee is not getting acceptance in the meeting. It's a discipline quotient you call. Then he asked me, tell me what. Then this book helped me. Then I started observing. I recorded in the sense I made a points, the time and date. Then I given him an example how your discipline is not helping the others to speak up. You are apparent to be a more challenging, but your body language is not helping them to open up. So then when I started giving those examples, he started correcting back. I think these are small things. You don't need to achieve a lot of things. I think that was my benefit of this, but they are still in the process of rolling out this whole exercise.
Very interesting, I guess. That's a very good insight. Directly applying what possibly you learned or gained, and
Yeah.
trying to change. Yeah.
A nice book you have mentioned, Chaluvaraju. But what my personal experience, I'll tell you. We know all this. I mean,
Yeah.
if you are in a position where
Yeah, exactly.
you have
Yeah.
people above you who doesn't know any of these things, is the most difficult part.
Yes.
They don't understand any of these things, but they are the decision makers by virtue
Yes.
of being promoters or by virtue of whatever reasons. If they are there sitting in the decision making process, you try to tell them these things, but
Yeah.
I think they are very ignorant of these things which helps the organization. Does
Yeah.
the book mention anything like that? I mean, how you actually communicate with your bosses when they don't understand these things at all? I mean, they are missing on these things totally. You understand it very well, but the decision maker, I mean, probably you're not the only one, but there's a group of people who needs to get into it, and that's the situation which I get into sometimes. See, they don't understand any of these things. They don't understand what is trust building. They don't understand the long-term perspectives. Sometimes they don't understand what is integrity and all those things. We just have to communicate, which is not easy. If you are ignorant of these things totally, then it's very difficult for them to understand also.
Exactly, Doctor. What the book says, you have to roll it out as a whole organization or a whole team, including the manager. Otherwise, it don't helps. Then
Correct.
that has to be observed. The behavior of the manager has to be observed. I think it's not only if you roll it out to your employees, it is not going to help. That's why the most emphasis is on the management quality. The book emphasizes the 12 characteristics are much more that is the fundamental thing where other 4 factors are important. But the first factor, the management quality, what exactly you're mentioning, unless that changes, if the manager of CEO of the company want to implement this, he has to implement for himself. That's what the
Exactly.
book says.
That's right. And and you find some CEOs who doesn't understand any of these things. That's the whole trouble.
Yeah,
Probably
there
that's
is
the
also
reason why.
interview. Yeah. No, there are interviews of the CEOs. They also reflecting what their pitfalls and what they did later. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.